Hey, Bears fans, do you think the Bears will make the playoffs in 2020? The full schedule's been released, knowing everything. What do you think? Type Y for yes, type N for no. I'm confident. I think Chicago will be back in the postseason this year, so I am spamming Y in the comments section. Now, on today's video, we got 6 free agent targets the Bears could get before the 2020 season. Before we get into my 6 players I think the Bears should target, let's look at the salary cap outlook. Not a ton of cap space, just under $10 million as of now. Keep in mind, a lot of that is going to go to draft picks. About $5.5–6 million is expected to go to the Bears' 7 draft picks, which will leave Chicago with about $4 million to work with. That number can go up. There are players Chicago can release to save some cap space. A player like Cordell Patterson would save over $3 million. You could trade Mitchell Trubisky. So there are ways to create cap space but at this current point in time, that is about what the Bears are working with. Here are my updated biggest needs after the draft, after a couple of recent signings with Ted Ginn and Tayshaun Gibson. Offensive line, both spots. Those are the top 2 needs. Tackle, interior offensive line, specifically right guard. I've put running back a little higher. I'm fine with Montgomery and Tariq Cohen. I do think the Bears could use another runner, though. And then obviously defensive line. I think the Bears could get some depth there, either at nose tackle or on the edge, and then just edge pass rushers in general, like whether it's an outside linebacker or a defensive end. I think you can't ever have too many of those, so that's kind of where I'm at with this Bears roster. Obviously, offensive line is the priority. All right, guys, we got a mailbag coming very soon. Use hashtag Bears to get your questions on the show. You guys know the drill by now. For you new watchers, here's how it works. You use hashtag Bears, then ask me any questions. I will pull as many as I can and use them on our next Q&A. We're doing these about once a week, so go ahead and ask away, and I will answer as many of them as I can. All right, let's get into it. Number 6, Stephen Gostkowski. I didn't mention a kicker on biggest needs because, look, Eddie Pinheiro, pretty good last year, had a lull in the middle of the season, but look, isn't it worth kicking the tires on Gostkowski? You're talking about the 5th most accurate kicker in NFL history. Only 36, which isn't super old for a kicker. There is a problem, though. Did have hip surgery in October, only played in 4 games last season, wasn't quite as good. He actually got the yips a little bit on extra points. He missed 4 out of 15 of those. Obviously, it's not the old 18-yard extra point. It's 33 yards now, but that's still a bit of a red flag. But I think he's at least worth bringing into camp, right? I mean, you're talking about the number 5 most accurate field goal kicker in NFL history at over 87% conversion rate. He's over 70% from 50 yards and out. He's got a long of 62. This is one of the best kickers of all time, and he still wants to play, so why not at least bring him into camp and see what he can do? Pick a kicker. Type S for Stephen Gostkowski. Type E for Eddie Pinheiro. The Bears also brought him Ahmed Ramiz. He missed 5 extra points in college his senior year, so I don't think he's going to challenge Pinheiro, whereas Gostkowski at least is going to compete with him, right? I don't think there's any harm. I'm typing S for Gostkowski. I would like to see him at least come into camp. All right, number 5, let's get into some real position players. Carlos Hyde, I mentioned running back. I think he could be kind of a physical bruising runner to, give this offense a different look, because David Montgomery, he's also a physical back, but they're going to use him a lot more in the pass game, I believe, this year than they did as a rookie. And plus, if you get another just pure in-between-the-tackles rusher, which is what Carlos Hyde is, I think Tariq Cohen just is strictly a receiving back at that point. He quietly had over 1,000 yards last year. Carlos Hyde was really good in 2019 for the Houston Texans. 4.5 yards a carry there. He had the 6 touchdowns. He's a decent pass catcher as well, but I think he would be primarily just kind of a short yardage in between the tackles back, whereas Montgomery would be your primary running back, obviously with Tariq Cohen rotating in as well. I like this idea. If it's cheap, I think it's a good idea because, Null's more of a fullback. Bears brought in a couple of UDFAs. I like Artavis Pierce out of Oregon State, but Carlos Hyde is a proven player in this league who's got multiple 1,000-yard seasons under his belt and is still only 29 years old. I think he can bring a lot to the table, and I think at very minimum he would bring some competition to the running back position. All right, Bears fans, lots of different jerseys are available, so go to this link, chatsports.com/Bears1. You should get a Cole Kmet jersey, represent the 2020 draft, or Khalil Mack. Several colors and different combinations are available. Eddie Jackson, not just the ones we're showing on screen. Tons of different players, tons of different colors. Chatsports.com/Bears1. Go get yourself a Bears jersey for the 2020 season. I'll put that link in the comments and in the description. Number 4 player here, Clay Matthews. This would be ironic after he played with the Packers for a while. Obviously very familiar with the Bears and the NFC North. I will say this, 3-4 scheme, that fits his game very, very nicely. He is a true outside linebacker that rushes the passer in a 3-4 defense. That's what the Bears do with their outside linebacker spots. Obviously, Chicago has Khalil Mack and Robert Quinn. But if Clay Matthews is a guy that rotates in and can get after the passer, especially in key third downs, I'm absolutely down for that. He had 8 sacks last year. He's still a guy who can get after the quarterback. Now, he's not Pete Green Bay Clay Matthews that's flying all over the place, giving 15 tackles in a game and a couple of sacks, but I still think he could be a solid rotation piece in this linebacking unit. Mack and Quinn are your key pass rushers there. We'll see what Gibson offers as a rookie, but not a ton of proven pass rushers at the outside linebacker position outside of Quinn and Mack. I think Clay Matthews could be an ideal third guy that rotates in and plays a lot of snaps in pass rushing situations. So I'll be curious to see if the Bears have any interest. I'd be surprised, but you never know in the end what's going to happen in the NFL. We've seen weirder things than Clay Matthews going to the Bears after spending most of his career with the Green Bay Packers. Obviously, Bears fans hate the Packers. Who's your most hated Packer ever? I would say the last 10 or 15 years, most of you guys would say Aaron Rodgers, but we've got an older audience here as well. One of you guys said you've been a Packers or Bears fan for like 50 years, so tell me your most hated Packer of all time. Go ahead and comment it down in the comments section. All right, top 3 here. Michael Bennett, another pass rushing type, but more on the defensive line, especially in a 3-4 scheme. I think he'd be a nice defensive end. I think he would challenge Bilal Nichols for some snaps as well. Versatility. He can play inside. He can play outside. In a 3-4, I think he's primarily a defensive end, but in certain situations, I think you could slide him inside as well, especially an occasional 4 defensive lineman, 4 DL schemes that could get worked in from time to time. Still productive, 6.5 sacks last year. Played for both the Patriots and the Cowboys. 9 sacks the year before, 8.5 back in 2017. Now, he's not going to come in here and give you 12 sacks, but I can give you 35, 40 snaps in game and maybe give you a handful of sacks in a season. I know he's interested in returning to Seattle to finish up his career there, but I think the Bears should at least give him a call. And like I said, I think he could compete with Nichols for snaps, quite frankly. And honestly, for 2020, would probably be an upgrade at that spot next to Goldman and Akeem Hicks. Obviously, those two guys are clear starters. Robertson Harris is a solid rotation piece as well. They brought in John Jenkins as the backup nose tackle spot, but I think Michael Bennett still has something left in the tank. He offered some juice for the Cowboys down the stretch last year. I think he could do the same for the Chicago Bears. Want to remind you guys to get subscribed to the channel. We recently crossed over 7,000 subscribers. We're doing videos almost every day. We got the latest rumors, news. I mentioned earlier, Q&As, doing them all the time, so use hashtag Bears and ask your questions. You see the link below, but just hit that red subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a video here on Chicago Bears Now. All right, Jason Peters, you guys didn't think I was going to forget the offensive lineman, did you? How about one of the best left tackles in the last 2 decades? Pretty great career for a guy who was undrafted back in the day. He is 38. Like, he's old, so he's probably got 1 or 2 decent years left. Injuries have crept up a little bit, but he's still a very solid left tackle. He's clearly an upgrade over Charles Leno Jr., especially if we get the Leno that we saw last year. If he goes back to 2018, maybe that's a different story, but Peters is very accomplished in this league. 9 Pro Bowls, 2-time first-team All-Pro, 4-time second-team All-Pro. He was on the All-Decade team that got released about a month and a half ago. Won a Super Bowl with the Eagles, obviously. This guy's accomplished a lot in his league. UDFA or not, this is probably a guy that's going to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And if the Bears are serious about protecting Nick Foles or Mitchell Trubisky, why not see what the market value for Jason Peters is? Maybe he's too rich for them, but I do think it's at least worth giving him a call. Top guy, it's not going to be flashy, but Ronald Leary. I just think right guard is the biggest need. And I think Ronald Leary is a proven run blocker, and I think the Bears are going to want to run the football a lot. I think he just mashes people in the run game. He's not great as a pass protector, but he's passable. He's good enough, and he's only 31 years old. I still think he can play at a high level. I know he's better than Coward. Like, he's got to be better than Rashad Coward at that right guard spot. So I think he would be an upgrade. I think he would be cheap. I think he would solve a lot of problems for this Bears offensive line. line. It's not flashy. We got the number one. You're probably thinking, oh, Ron Leary. Yeah, Ron Leary. You guys have been begging for offensive line discussion. Top two guys are offensive linemen, Jason Peters, Ron Leary. So pick one. If you had to choose, type J for Jason Peters, type R for Ron Leary. I'd still probably choose Jason Peters because his locker room impact would be great as well, and he's an upgrade at left tackle. But if you could get one of these guys, I think that would help out this Bears offense tremendously. So just to recap real quick, top 6 free agent targets now that we're well into free agency and after the NFL draft. Stephen Gostkowski to create kicker competition, Carlos Hyde, Clay Matthews, and then top 3, Michael Bennett, Jason Peters, and Ron Leary. You guys keep saying it, and I agree. This offensive line needs some quality players. I think Peters or Leary would be an instant upgrade at their respective positions.